today we're gonna go through 5 things your sample beat needs that you might have not thought of, going through the stupidly obvious one, moving into some more advanced things, and finally going into some that you probably didn't think about. So let's just start with the stupidly obvious one, the sample. So obviously we're making a sampled beat, so we need a sample, and I know this might be just kind of a stupid point, but I wanted to add it here because, to be honest, it's the most important one. If you don't get your sample right, then nothing else matters. And I oftentimes feel like people make a sample beat, yet they spend the least time actually looking for a sample. So I just want you to pay more attention to that, and actually maybe even spend more time looking for a sample rather than making the beat. So I used the sample from our weekly samples on Sample Academy. It's called Heaven by Millie Scott. And so I selected 2 sections from it. And so here's the first section. So I think this one is perfect for the verse. And here is the second section. And I'm planning to use the second one as an intro and a chorus. So what I did next is I took both the samples and I just pitched them up 2 semitones, and I just added a little bit of processing, which leads us to our second point, which is space. And so basically what this means is your sample needs to leave space for other instruments and the drums. And so whether that is just finding an empty sample part, like for example this first part right here, you can even see in the waveform that it's not thick, so it has a lot of space. Or the second thing, which I also did, is processing it in a way where we're gonna take away that space for the sample and we're gonna leave it for other instruments. So I just added a little bit of cymatics origin and an EQ to cut out the low end. And so here's how that sounds. So the third point is movement. So basically there's 2 things that means. So the first thing is changes between sections, and the second one is groove. So let me just explain the first one. So as I said, I have 2 sample sections. So one of them I'm gonna use for the intro and the chorus, which is this one. And then I got this second section, which I'm gonna use for the verse. Right, but as it stands right now, there's not very much change between those sections other than there being vocal in one. So what I did is I took this section and I chopped it up. So actually now if you listen to it, it's actually gonna feel like it's in double time. So what's that gonna do is that gonna give us that movement between the intro and chorus and the verse. So the other is the actual groove, or the things changing within the smaller parts of the song rather than the big parts like the chorus and the verse. So usually you're gonna achieve that with drums. So what I did is I grabbed those 2 rim shots, this one and this one, and I made this very simple repeating pattern with it. Right, and then I just took this clap and added it right here, and this is basically gonna finish off our groove. So then we can take that and build the rest of the song and the rest of the drums on top of it. So one thing that I just want to point out is that I just took the rim shots and I made them randomly pan between the left and the right ear, so it just adds a little bit of more spaciousness to the beat. So next I took this snare and just added in the places where you would usually add snares. And then I actually took 2 kicks, so the main one and the accent kick. And I just made this very simple pattern with it, where the main kick is just following the perks and the additional kick is just adding a little bit more rhythm to the song. And the fourth thing that your sample needs is width. So this either can be width in the sample or width in the instruments that you add. So we already saw that I added a little bit of panning to the rim shots. So that already is adding a little bit more width to our beat. However, the sample I picked is, to be honest, already wide by itself. So I don't have to actually add that much to make my sample beat wide. But two things I do add are two Juno synths. And I'm gonna use this one to build out my chords and see how basically this is just one note playing in two different octaves. So to be honest, you can't even call it a chord, but it makes the sample sound way bigger. And then I add this one, and I just make a lead melody with it. So notice how the lead synth is slightly panned to the left, and just notice how those two Juno synths end up talking to each other. And going back to our third point, that also adds a little bit of movement to the entire song. And the last point, but in my opinion one of the more important ones, is they contrast. But actually I'm gonna use a different beat to show it off. So basically what I mean by contrast is that whatever you do, you need to contrast the rest of your beat with your sample. So in this beat, I have this sample that if you listen to it, you can hear that it's very compressed. Right, so what I do with this beat is I use a lot of sounds that are pretty much not compressed at all, and then I don't compress them all that much by myself. The only real compression I actually add to them is the compression on my master chain. So I add this bass and this synth, and basically this allows me to build contrast between my sample and the rest of my beat, which just makes my beat feel very full. So if we go back to our earlier beat, basically the way I build contrast here is that if you look at our sample, it's not very bass heavy. Especially that we even filter out some of the bass out of it. So what I do is I grab this solid bass synth and I mix it with our very bass heavy drums. And basically that allows me to build the contrast with the sample. And if you want to learn how to chop samples like this, how to add chords like this or melodies like this, then check out Sample Academy. We currently have a free trial for everybody, so just go check it out. It's first link in the description. And if I just take this and arrange it out a little bit, here's how the final beat sounds.